Hello, welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Charmine, and this is the third part in our three-part architecture admissions portfolio series. I remember how daunting it was when I first applied for architecture, so we thought that we'd share our tips and tricks and also show you our own portfolios so you can get an idea of how diverse the work really is that can get you accepted. If you haven't already, be sure to check out Thomas and Sheila's videos as well, because they've shown a great amount of diverse work and they have some crazy tutorials and tips that could really benefit you in your application process. There are also timestamps indicated in the video, so if you want to check out a specific section or topic that I'm talking about today, go ahead and use those. And if you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, planning a portfolio was one of the scariest things I had to do in my grade 12 year. I tried to record the process for the most part through my Instagram story highlights, so I'll be including those here. Digital art, as you can see here. That's the medium that I've been using the most. It was the one that I was the most comfortable with and the one that I found I could really display the most out of in terms of color and freedom to show the visions that I had planned for that portfolio piece. I do feel like I should give you guys a warning. I know some universities really don't like digital art. I think you should take whatever I say with a grain of salt, of course, but I believe that if you balance out your portfolio, if you are a digital artist, with other work that is traditional and shows that you are strong in a variety of mediums, that will really help your case, because digital work is beautiful. Most of my strongest pieces were digital, and I made sure that those traditional ones were really strong. A suggestion for that I have is that if you have any art classes in your school or in your community, try to take as many as possible. Honestly, they are a lifesaver when it comes to producing work, and it was tough because I couldn't get any in my year, but I really wish I had the opportunity, because it can honestly push you sometimes to create work that you've never thought of. And if you want really cool examples of artwork done with those contacts, you should definitely check out Sheila's YouTube video on her architecture portfolio, which touches on all of those amazing projects she did in high school, as well as several other traditional works that are just beautiful. For this planning stage, I tried to list as many deliverables as I had. Different universities often have different deliverables. It's weird, it's confusing, so it's really helpful if you have your deadlines, things you need to get done, and different login details you're gonna have to know all memorized or put in one place so that you can easily review them anytime. That was a lifesaver. Overall, I think I spent 1.5 months preparing my portfolio for Carleton, which is the university I now attend. They required 4 prompted pieces. We had to create original works based off of the prompts they gave us, and then we could also include 4 optional pieces of our existing works. And there was also a mini essay involved, but that's a different story. I'll walk you through exactly how I managed to make those look like art and how they connected to each other quickly. Okay, so for this prompt, I decided to take an unconventional route. After a lot of brainstorming, it felt like many people would draw pieces that were unfinished for this prompt, obviously, as you can see on the title. So I decided that instead of doing that, I would try to translate it into a different way so that my piece would stand out. Now, these 4 tell a story and they touch on a theme of space colonization. I decided to show a faded film strip to begin the story, and I really just wanted to show this narrative of an expedition among the stars, which is why this piece is here. For the second prompt, the story is now showing an astronaut who's landed on alien terrain with an uncertain future. Hesitant landscape translated for me like a future that we were unaware of, so I included colors of hope and optimism, but you can tell that there's like a dangerous aura around and stuff. This was really fun for me to make, honestly, and I wasn't thinking too hard initially when I was trying to make it. I think I spent at least like a week trying to create really, really pretty compositions, but I found that when I just sort of let myself go and wing it in a sense, I was able to create a much more powerful piece that actually flowed together really well. I really like this piece. Disclaimer guys, the next one is my personal least favorite, but its theme is strong, so I stand by it. I wanted to show urban rhythms, which is the next prompt, as this lifeline for a terraformed city, right? Maybe it's running on some mineral power that we don't know about yet. The idea is that it's still continuing that color scheme from the old drawing to show that this is the same place, but it's changed so much. I thought that was a really interesting quality to this piece. And I think just wasn't the biggest fan of the light trails I used, which just like bugged me even at the time. It did get the message across though, and it helped tie everything together. So I'm not like angry, I guess. Could be better. There might be some pieces in your portfolio that you don't really like that much. It's okay. As long as they compositionally do show your best work, I think it's fair to include them, especially if they like add on to this theme that you're developing, for example. The Where I Belong piece really tied the story together for me. I explained that this was like representative of the way I visualize my brain working, basically. And it was like this network of spacey futurism and unconventional natural landscapes with an affinity for nature and the sky. So we were given an explanation text space within the Carleton application portal to explain really shortly what we wanted to talk about with our piece and what the message was. I think this is the piece where I kind of tried to incorporate the narrative from the other pieces into, because each one I kind of specified like architectural terraforming as my main narrative that continued, but they each had their own little aspects of my personality. Like I think for Hesitant Landscape, for example, I was like talking about how I'm like very curious and like to explore new possibilities. Things like that, right? It just gives them like a more personal view of you as an applicant versus just seeing like, oh, this is what I used to make it, you know? Now, formatting your portfolio is pretty daunting, especially if you've never had to design your work for print or document your traditional pieces for digital viewing. Thomas has some amazing tips for those in his video, so be sure to check it out and check out his portfolio as well to get some tips on documentation and photography when it comes to trying to get really nice photos of your paperworks or whatever else works you do traditionally. A really great design tool that I used for my portfolio is Canva. It's free, it comes with a lot of great templates for design, and it's really intuitive, letting you change elements in text without having to worry too much about how to do it technically. Other design softwares, if you don't like that one, you can use our Adobe InDesign or even Google Slides. I think all three of us had really different uses of these softwares for our portfolios, but you can see the diversity, and it just goes to prove that as long as you have a presentable style and consistent theme, it really does help with your portfolio. Now, whatever program you decide to use, there's some key things to think about, and the first of those is color modes. Color modes are basically the different colors producible for your designs depending on how you want them to be viewed. The ones we're going to be focusing on today are RGB and CYMK. It's a little daunting, I know, but don't worry, I'm gonna explain it to you because I wish someone explained it to me back then. If your application is being submitted digitally, you'll want to make sure your colors are in RGB, which stands for red, green, and blue. This basically just means that it's best for digital screens, and it'll be really nice and vibrant if you're submitting it digitally, which I know a lot of people are this year, unfortunately. However, if you do need to print out your application to submit it physically or mail in, this is really important. You need to do it in CYMK. CYMK stands for cyan, yellow, magenta, and key, I think. I don't know if I'm saying cyan right. If I'm not, please correct me, but if I don't know, y'all. I'm tired. I'm sorry. The key idea to this is that these are the colors that are available in printers. So this is something I ran into as an issue when I was working on my portfolio. If you don't format your work into CYMK in the digital formatting stage, it's hard because when you go to print it out, it might be a completely different color or offset from what you actually wanted it to look like. Obviously, if you edited your work, which I highly suggest you do if you need to, it can be a little offsetting and it might take away from your design. So if you can, if you're printing stuff out or need to mail it in, make sure you put your image mode into CYMK. There's a lot of really great tutorials online on how to do this. It's a really simple step, and most design softwares have that option to change between those two modes specifically. So don't be worried, it's not too technical, and it's a really quick step to save yourself a lot of trouble in the future. The second thing that we're going to be talking about is image resolution. Now, this is something I was struggling with. I had to print out 3 different versions of my portfolio, so don't do what I did. The ideal photo resolution that you want is 300 dpi. So try to make sure you get really high res photos first off, and then when you're designing your portfolio, make sure that that image resolution is 300 dpi. It's a really big file, so if you're really stuck for space or something, you can go a little lower, but that is the ideal that you should aim for really crispy print. Now I'll show you a quick flip through of my portfolio and critique it, and give you some insight into how the admissions committee might review yours. Here's my portfolio. As you can see, I used my own photograph for the back of it. I just thought it added something different compared to the blank minimalist black ones or solid color ones that I'd seen with many people. That's totally up to you. This is again really helpful with Canva, really easy to design. I think this was just from like a photography assignment I'd done in like grade 10. So again, if you have other creative works, make sure to recycle them or upcycle them in a way, or your portfolio if you want to. I tried to specify the category. One key thing, like just as I'm entering this now, is that I think I didn't really know that I had to make sure my pieces had space to breathe. Like that was an alien concept to me at the time. The work itself is really strong, but just because there's so much going on the page, I can't look at this now. Like I don't like it. And I think a lot of architectural reviewers who may be looking at your work will also find this kind of spacing and layout really annoying. I actually kind of like this page. These two are again those prompts that we've seen before with Dreamscape and Crystal Cities. This was for a different university, so I didn't want to bring up the exact prompt because I felt like a lot of people would and they might notice. But I put those in here just because I probably should have added my other portfolio pieces too, like the other two prompts, but I was just like not sure which ones I should put in. I also have some pencil art here. This font sizing is something you might want to look into. This font itself is kind of annoying me now. You can look into like architectural fonts that are used often, or even just search up architectural portfolio like templates online, and you'll probably get a more clean version to use. I think for this one I was just kind of winging it for the most part, which is why I now find it a little unrefined. The eyes, guys. There's a podcast I linked with like a Ryerson professor who mentioned something about this, but in general, like I realized this too late and I should have realized it before. Don't use eyes in your portfolio. It's such a basic move. All artists do it. We all have doodles of eyes and stuff. Unless it's really, really important or really key and visually appealing, like don't just put sketches in. I don't know why I did this. I think I was trying to show that I can do like different textures, but honestly, like looking back, it's kind of rough. It's not even like filling the whole page to be like disturbing or something. It's lackluster to me. I could have definitely substituted this out for a better piece. I like the leopard, would have liked a whole page. Mixed media here, really like these two pieces. These are older pieces, which is another regret I have. I think if you can, try to get your pieces in an updated version. I honestly did not have the time to make a lot of pieces in my grade 12 year, so that was my struggle, but if you can, get as updated as you can with your work and try to make new content for this. It'll just really elevate your process, obviously, and they can see how nice your work is. And honestly, like, they're not gonna care about the progress you've made since you were in like grade 9, you know? Like, if you put work that's older and like you can tell that your style has evolved since then, they're not gonna know that. They're just gonna think it's a weak piece. So I'd say do your best to make recent content. That's not always possible, so like a year or two is fine, but just something to consider. This was for an art class. Three-dimensional diorama of Vincent van Gogh painting. Loved it. It was really fun. It let me play around with model making in a way. This is one of the optional pieces I think I put in for Carleton. Actually, this one, and I think the Love's Light and the Shadows one I also put in, but this one was really important because it was, first of all, 3D. You know, it had a lot of spatial elements, it had a lot of light involved, and I think I documented this one the best. But I think the format for this is really good to show like ways that you can rank out things. One thing I would have improved with this is probably making this main lower image a lot bigger so it spoke more, so that the daytime nighttime thing wasn't as like overbearing. Especially with architecture, I find that when you're formatting your design, like people's eyes will follow what you want them to follow, so that's something to consider. And then I have like a photography page. Again, I really wish I had done single pages. I sound like a broken record right now, but it is what it is. I really like these images. And then I added a little thank you page. I'm not going to scroll down because then you will see the university this was for and some other admissions info that I don't really think you need to know. But that is a basic run through of this portfolio. Just as a quick summary of that whole segment, 3 things that if I could improve, I would, is better documentation. Again, other than that, I also thought that it would be important to have a more diverse set of work that's like recent. My work was a little outdated personally, and I think if I'd created more, even though I hadn't been able to with my like schedule and stuff, it would have been really helpful in giving me a stronger portfolio. Last thing, I think I've said it enough times in that segment, but it's really important to have less images on the page. Make room for breathing, please. It's something that annoys me so much now, but it's not something I knew about until I got into architecture. So really consider that. I hope this helped, and I've got a couple more resources. So that Ryerson prof that I mentioned earlier in the video, his name is Vincent. He's made a podcast, I think it started at the start of quarantine in like March 2020, about architectural education. He has 2 episodes so far. I found that link and talk about application anxiety and the portfolios that the profs like to see. It was a real eye-opener for me, so I suggest you listen to those if you're curious. I'll also put the links to those down below. Y'all, I sound like I'm sponsored, but I swear, like, this is just good content. Another really helpful resource, if you are applying to Canadian schools for architecture, there is a Discord server. The other 2 have also mentioned this, but I'll mention it again just in case you're new here. There is a server with, I think, the past 2 years, pretty big set of undergraduate applicants and upper years who have their old portfolios pinned up in there and are also always available to offer advice. There's a bunch of applicants who join every year, so it's really helpful when you want to make some friends who are also going through the same thing as you, and it's great to meet new people who you might just end up being in university with. So I hope this series helped you out. If you haven't seen the other 2 involved, please go ahead and check them out in the playlist. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'm always willing to help any architecture applicant in need, so if you want insight or personal questions like related to architecture, you can hit me up in the socials linked below. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this series. Good luck with your applications. It's a very intense process nonetheless, but it's okay, don't worry, you will get through it, and it'll be a great bonding experience for you and your year, because trust me, no one forgets their portfolio application. The trauma just stays with you. To keep up with new content that we'll be uploading, because we want to make more videos for you guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate it, and yeah, look forward to seeing you guys again real